So tonight I am going to be showing you how to do dodge and burn in Photoshop. Now, there's several ways in which you can do this, and each has its own merit, and it really comes down to, I suppose, choosing the right one for you. But it's just showing you another technique, something else that is different. Now, this technique that I'm showing you is the one that I use the most. That's hence why I'm showing you it. And it gives a really good depth to the image. It makes it a lot more contrasting. So if you don't know what dodge and burn is, it's an old darkroom technique that was used to basically enhance images. And what you would do is basically work on the highlights and work on the shadows at the same time. And there was lots of tricks you could do to achieve that goal. So I'm going to show you how to do it in Photoshop. So the first thing you need to do is just to open up Photoshop. And then what we want to do is add a new layer. So we want to add a complete new layer. We don't want to copy the background, we don't do anything like that. So just go to layer, new, and then new layer. And you can see there's the short key there, Shift, Control, and N. So if you select that, what you can then do on here is a couple of little tricks. So the first thing you want to do is change the blend mode from normal to overlay, which is down here. Okay. And then what happens is at the bottom, it says here, fill with overlay, neutral color, 50% gray. So we're going to click on that and press OK. And what that's basically done is, if I just click on the eye there to get rid of the picture, it's created 50% gray. And we're going to use that as a platform for us to do dodge and burn. And we simply use the brush tool to brush in the highlights and the shadows. Now, there's other ways in which you can do this. I've shown this in the VIP group a lot, when we use curve tools as well. You can do this in Lightroom. But this is a more professional way of doing it, and it's a lot more precise. So I'm just going to get the, sorry, you can hear me now. I'm just getting the feed up just so I can see everybody and I can chat and say hello. Just need to mute myself. There we go. That's it. You can say hi now. Okay, so now we've done that. So it's really simple. You just create that new layer. Okay, change the blend mode to overlay, and then select 50% gray. Then come over to your brush tool, which is here. Okay, just click down and you'll see you've got all these options here. It's the top one, brush tool. And if you come to the top, you can see we've got some settings up here in which we can use to play around with. So I'm going to click on that little arrow, and that then brings up all the brushes that we've got. And you've got the size, and you can use the brackets keys on your computer to make that bigger or smaller. And you've got basically a big list of all different types of brushes. And if you come up to this cog here, you can actually import brushes. You can reset them. You can do, get more brushes, and it will take you to Adobe where you can get more brushes. But what we need is basically something like this, a soft round pressure brush. There we go. So clicking on that, you can see that the hardness is at 0. And in fact, it's at 0. And if I wanted that any softer, I could just choose another one like this one up here, which is that one. In fact, I'm going to go with that one because that looks a little bit better for what I want to do. And if I click back on the image, you'll see that reappears. And we've got opacity. So opacity and flow, they're the ones we're going to be working with. And if your smoothing is on, take that off, because what happens is when you make an adjustment, you get this blue line, and it's like a dragging effect, and it's really annoying. I don't use that. So if you want to get rid of that, just push that down to 0. So the opacity is how much you see of the adjustment, and the flow is the flow of ink that's coming out of the brush, okay, or the paint, how much paint is on the brush. So what we want to do is bring this right down, because we want to be able to do real subtle adjustments. We don't want to go in and really heavily adjust it. We want to do it gradually, so we have to paint over the same area more than once to get the effect, because it's just a little bit better. I'm going to bring the flow down as well. Okay, so that's pretty much set up now. I've brought them down to 37%. Again, you can change these, mess around, and you know, each image is different. So the first thing I'm going to do from the brush tool is make sure that I've got these black and white. Okay, so if you press D on the keyboard, that will reset them. Can you see there? It just flipped over to black and white. Okay, so if you've got a color, you can just press D and it will change them over. Click on the arrow and that will change them from white to black. So I'm going to start with the black. And if I make the brush bigger by pressing the bracket keys on the computer, see, it makes it bigger. Now, the bigger the brush, the softer that effect is going to be. So I'm going to zoom in, and what I want to do is try and get, you know, this dirt and grub. I want to enhance that. I want to enhance all the dark areas. So all I'm doing is following the natural contours of what's happening in the picture. So that's the reason why I've used black and white. It's just because it's easier to show. You can use this technique on colors, colored pictures. You can use it on anything. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just start blending this in. Now, you can see there, as I do that, that is quite harsh, isn't it? Okay, it's really harsh. So I'm going to press Control Z a couple of times, or Z for my American friends, and that will bring it back to where I've just what I've just done. So I'm going to bring the opacity down more, and I'm going to bring the flow down more. So this is a good starting point just to see what's what. There we go. That's better. I'll make the brush a little bit bigger, and all I'm doing is just going over the dark areas. So I'm just following the natural dirt and contours and things like that that's happening on the face. And it is just small minor adjustments. So what I'm doing at the minute is just picking out some of the darker areas, like on his skin, on his ear there. So it's just picking out this mud. I'm going to go over the eyebrow just a couple of times, this eyebrow, that bit of dirt there. And you can see that on here, on his brow, it's quite dirty there. But what I want to do with that is just bring this down a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Just paint that in. The reason why I'm adjusting them is because I don't want it to be too flat, because if you make the same adjustment all over the face, it's going to look the same and that will create a flat effect. The idea with what we're doing with dodge and burn is that we're creating contrast, and this is what makes an image pop. And it's what also makes the image look more three-dimensional, which is what we want, because we want to give it depth. Okay, so his nose, I'm making the brush a little bit bigger just to soften the effect. His nose there. And you probably won't see much of the effects at the minute of what I'm doing, but when we do the before and after, you'll be really shocked. Now, if I come up to here, my layers, and just take the background layer off by clicking on the eye, you can see there, look, you can see all the areas that I painted. It's almost like a ghost, isn't it? You can see the areas there. So this gives you a real good idea of how much you're adjusting and where you're adjusting it. So you can really jump back and forth and just see what's going on. So I'm going to paint this jawline in here, blend it up a little bit up here. Okay, I'm going to make this just a little bit darker, move the flow up a little bit more, just around here. Okay, and then this bit here. So if you hold the space bar down, it gives you this hand. You can move around then as well. So just going to paint that area in there. Okay, and this section here as well, where he's got a little bit of light, dark light there. Just blend that in. Now, I've probably gone over a little bit too much there, so I can press Command Z just to bring that back a little bit, and that just goes back in steps. Or you can use the history tool. So if you just go into your layers as history, you can just go back, and then I'm just going to do that. That's it. Okay. So we can also do the hair. So let's darken them areas there just to give it a little bit more depth. It's got some sweat on that side there. Okay. So really it is painting. It's almost like painting by numbers. So I'm going to enhance the lines there. So I'm just going over them, and I might go over them more than once just because I want to really make them pop and stand out. Okay. This here. So, you know, you can work a lot closer than what I am. You can go in to this kind of level here, so you can get everything. You can see the lines there and there, and you can really take your time and just darken these areas. And it's the little bits of detail like this that are going to make the image pop, and it's worth spending time doing this, really taking your time, going over areas that are dark. So the ear, look, you can see there's a dark area within the ear, so let's enhance that. There's a dark area here on the ear. There's a section that's dark. Okay, so we can be as precise as we want. And let's just darken under this lip here. And then drop this flow and opacity down for the lips. And I'm just going to do them bottom parts there. I'm not going to go anywhere else on the lip there because that's actually a highlight. Okay, and let's enhance that shadow, that, and that there. Right, so we've done the darkening of the areas. I'm just going to make this bigger. I'm going to darken this as well. And what I'm doing is clicking and dragging. And what that does is it just gives the effect. Because if you just click and then let go, you're just doing it in splodges. What I like to do is click and then drag. So you're literally painting it in. So like these areas at the background here, look, we can make sure that they are dark. Like this here is a gray. We could darken that if we wanted to. So let's have a look at the layers panel. Take the eye off, and you can see there, look, you can basically see the outline of the face, yeah, and the areas in which we've gone over. And you can see here, look, on the lines on the forehead there, they're a lot more darker than the rest, and that's because I've really emphasized them a little bit more. So you can continue if you want to build up the areas of which you've been working on. So, you know, we can keep going over and just make them darker. And what I want to do is try and blend this as much as possible so that these dark areas are really kind of blending in. And you can see there, that line there, I don't really like that, so I might change that in a minute. So let's go over there, and the eyes. Okay, right. So now we've done that, all we need to do now is come to the white. We need to do the whites as well. So let's click on the arrow, change it to white, and then we can continue painting. One sec, guys. I'm just getting up the main group because I was in the wrong group. That's why I can't see any of your comments. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to grab my phone. One sec. I can chat with you all then, and you can ask me questions if you want to. One sec, guys. I would have done this before, but Zoom was being a bit of a pain. Hey, there we go. Okay, right. So now we've done the blacks. Now we're onto the whites. So now we're going to be looking and focusing on the highlighted areas. Now, what I like to do with the highlighted areas is to make the brush a lot bigger, because what tends to happen on an image is that the highlights will be usually more present than the darks. Okay. That's why I start with the dark areas, because they are usually the smaller areas. And as you can see, if you look at this, you know, obviously it's a black and white image. There's 3 shades in there. There's your blacks, your grays, and your whites. And we've kind of already had a gray applied to it. We've done the blacks, and now we're doing the whites. But you can see, look, there's, you know, quite big areas. But the first thing I'm going to do is sort the eyes out. I'm going to brighten them up a little bit. So I'm just going to do a test run, just run it over, see what happens. So I need to increase that flow a little bit more and that opacity a bit more. And there we go, that's better. Okay, so I'm just going to whiten them eyes. Now, you've got to be careful when you're doing this that you don't over process the eyes, because it'll end up looking too fake. They'll be too bright. If you want eyes to pop out more, you're better off doing the pupil rather than the white area there. So it's these here that is what's going to make an eye come alive. You're just getting the highlights within them areas there. Okay, so make the brush a little bit bigger, and let's just paint around here. So I'm just looking at these highlights up here. And it's okay if you go over some of the shadowed areas, because this is more contouring. This is more sort of refining, really. I'm blending the darks and the grays with the whites. So that's why I can, if I keep working on this area here, you can see that line's now gone. And that's because I've simply blended it. Now it's probably a little bit too harsh at the minute. Just need to bring that opacity down a fraction. And we can also change this opacity here after to get a global adjustment, which I'll show you how to do in a sec. So just picking out these highlights. So, you know, for me, whenever I look at an image, whenever I'm taking pictures, I work different to most other photographers in respect that I look at shadows first. I don't look at highlights first. I always look at shadows first, because I know they're the things that are going to be the most, they're going to stand out the most and create more three-dimensional effect. And the highlight is just as important. I've always worked on the basis of looking at the shadows and then working on the highlights afterwards, because the highlights is a quicker step. So we can just pick out some of the highlights in the hair there. And like I said, it doesn't look like I've done much, but when you see the before and after, you'll realize. So I'm just following this line. And again, you can just click on the eye and you can see there what we're doing. And it's quite a gradual blend, isn't it? You can see, you know, where we've been. So in case we've missed anywhere or we need to apply more, we can. So let's have a look down here. So maybe we could bring out just around this area here, because we're also looking at the direction of the light and where it's coming from. Okay, right. So that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So I've just changed. Oh, what's going on there? Hang on, sorry. Yeah. So I'm just going to have to go back a couple of steps because I changed the layer. There we go. I changed that back by accident. We all do it. Right. So I'm happy with that now. I could just bring that a little bit of light that side there. Okay. So if we come to the history panel, and then all the way down the bottom, there's a little camera down there. If we click on that, that will give us the before and after. So this is what we've done. Let's just zoom out. So Control minus or Command minus there. Okay. And that's the before. That's the after. And you can see a massive difference in that and what it's done. So when we look at the original, obviously it's unedited. It's quite flat. By doing this, you can see what I've done. I've worked on the contours and I've really pulled out the eyes. I've pulled out all the shadowed areas here, added in the highlights, and it's just giving the image a lot more punch. Now, like I said, we can bring the opacity down if we want to. So if we bring it down to 0, then that's where it was at the beginning. If we go to 100, that's where we were. So we could probably bring this down to about 80. Yeah, about 80. Just rein it in a little bit. Like I've always said, you know, less is more. So just bring that down. It will just make it look a little bit more natural. So if we go to the history panel again, take another snapshot, we can then view that before and after. And you can see there that it just flattens it ever so slightly. And it just makes it look a little bit more natural. So once you're done with that, you just go to layer and then go to flatten image, and that will flatten everything there. And then you can continue to make normal adjustments. So you can come down to the bottom here and we can click on the curves tool. And what this again is just a contrasting tool. So we can click in the middle. If we push up, that's going to brighten everything. If we pull down, that's going to darken everything. Now this, because it's in the middle, that's the gray areas. If we come down to here and click, you can see what happens here. Look, this is the shadowed area. So we can darken the shadows or we can lighten them. and at the top is the whites. And the reason why I know that is because look, there's the black, there's the white, and in the middle is gray. Okay, so if I want to whiten the areas, I can. If I want to pull them back, I can. And playing with this and taking your time is really worth the effort, because this tool is probably one of the single most important tools that I use anyway for retouching, because you can not only adjust the levels and the tones of things, but you can also, if you've got a colored picture, you can also change colors and things like that. So that's okay. I can just click on the X. Okay, come down to the bottom again, and I'm just going to go to the levels this time. So levels, we can see here we've got blacks, grays, and white. I'm just going to push them blacks in a bit, and I can adjust these midtones. Okay, and of course you can do this in Lightroom as well, not a problem. So if we come down to the history, click on the little camera again, you're going to see another difference. Okay, so it's another step, it's another layer that we've done. So we've gone from there, which was the dodge and burn, to there, which is now messing around with the curves and the levels. And if I want to change them, I can just come in here, double click, and I can come back to them anytime. So that's non-destructive. So if we look at the actual very beginning, we see there, we've got that image, and that actually, you know, when we first brought that up, it looked quite moody, quite grungy, lots going on. But in fact, we can now see that it was quite flat. And you can see there, we had the first snapshot, which was everything after I'd done all the dodge and burns. And then we decided to bring that down to 80%, which is snapshot 2. And then playing around with the curves and the levels, just to get a real basic adjustment, just to give it a little bit more contrast. We have then got this as an end result. So we've gone from that to that, which is a lot more punchy. It's a lot more contrast, and it makes the image look a lot more three-dimensional rather. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that. That is this week's training. So go and give that a go. Don't be afraid to use it. It's really simple and easy to use. You can go and do it. Like I said, it's so easy. Okay, so you just come up to here, go to layer, go to new. Okay, change the blend mode from normal to overlay, which is down here. Click on that gray there, filled with 50% gray, say okay, and then you use your brush tool, black and white, to paint in the areas that you want. And then any other adjustments, you can obviously do them in here, or you can bring them back into Lightroom if you prefer that, you know, ease of use. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Go and, let's say, go and give it a go. Let me have a look, see what you guys are doing. If you're interested in my next challenge, you'll know a few people have been asking about when the next 5-step blueprint to photography challenge is. It's actually on January the 4th, I believe. Let me just have a quick look. It is January the 4th, yes. So go to DSLRguruchallenge.com and you'll be able to sign up there. And in the meantime, if you haven't been over to the new website yet, which is DSLR.guru, go there, because you've got the settings app and you've got loads of other things, products, things like that you can download. There's lots of freebies in there as well. So go and check that out. Any questions, whack them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. But use this technique. It's a really, really good technique, and it will really make your images pop a lot more. Okay, so I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.